So on this episode of ChatGT, we'll be talking to Mark Thurman and Karthik Sahani from Tenable India. So welcome to the show, sir.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, Siddharth.
Likewise.
So, Mr. Mark, let's start with our first question. During the COVID lockdown, we all saw hackers step up their game. We also companies also jump onto digital transformation, but that also meant hackers stepping up their game. So now it is not about stealing some money. It is not about stealing some data. They have their own sales teams. They have their own recovery teams.
And I'll be presenting to customers later today. And we were literally talking about this subject and talking about how this threat landscape has changed so drastically, especially, based on COVID and this whole remote work from home. This has been able to allow the cyber criminals a whole new trajectory on being able to attack. The sophistication level of these ransomware attacks, when you look at the dark web, to your point, they literally have programs called ransomware as a service, where they have marketing teams, they have a tech support hotline. So it's making it very simple for basic cyber criminals to do ransomware attacks. And one of the reasons it's so easy is that, and this is a statistic from Gartner that we fully believe in, is roughly 60% of all breaches happen on a known vulnerability. So this isn't rocket science. This is the ransomware folks looking at all of the different vulnerabilities. And if you look at 2022, there were 25,000 new identified vulnerabilities. So this whole threat landscape around not remediating and patching vulnerabilities is contributing to all of these attacks and the attack surface being so complex. And this is why we view kind of what Tenable's doing around exposure management and Tenable One is so critical, because this attack surface is very complex, it's very wide reaching, and you're seeing the exploitation of data for ransomware, but also information in regard to healthcare records, in regard to files and information from healthcare facilities, and to the point you brought up, even impacting universities and schools.
Great, sir, great. So now I would like to understand the product to platform approach that Tenable is going for.
So if you take a look at the history of Tenable, Tenable has been around for a long time, and it's actually Nessus was the first product that Tenable built, and its 25-year anniversary is coming up. So the Nessus scanner has been in cyber as long as there's been cyber. It's actually one of the most widely deployed and used cyber tools ever built. And so it then went from Nessus to an on-premise security center called Tenable.io. So we now, though, have taken all of the different products, and we've been aggressive. We have acquired 5 different companies over the last 3.5 years, and we have taken all of these technologies and built a fully integrated platform for the first time ever at Tenable called Tenable One. And what Tenable One allows you to do is it pulls in all of your vulnerability management data. It pulls in your web application scanning data. It pulls in your cloud security data, your identity, so think of Active Directory, and then your attack surface, so any external internet-facing applications or devices. And it pulls all of those different asset types into a platform that allows you to get what we talked about, full context and full visibility, and then allows you to be able to communicate all of the risk that is being fed into the Tenable One platform. Meaning we can actually create a risk score in a dashboard that can tell you how secure you actually are. And that is the platform approach, taking multiple different asset types into one central platform and being able to look at what and how you measure risk, being able to look at contextual, how the different assets are connected and intertwined, and then being able to determine all of the different assets that are in your environment. pulled into a platform with a very simple user interface to navigate it, to truly understand how secure you really are as a company or a government.
Okay, sir. Okay. Now, I would like to understand what kind of opportunities do you see in India?
So as you can, as you rightly mentioned, that there is this huge phishing, ransomware, and other attacks that are taking place in country. Is no different from what's happening in other parts of the world. So it is similar. However, the laws and the compliance and the remediation for those may not have the same dollar value in terms of a penalization, penalty, and rules and regulations. Many organizations look at the penalty, which is probably not high enough, and say, do we really invest in technology that can actually prevent this from happening? Or should we really invest it for the future? And this is become a situation that we're contending here. Those penalties being smaller allow and the governance around that not being so stringent allows organizations to continue the way they are. So you'll see more attacks happening here, more things happening. And third thing, as Mark mentioned, was awareness. Are we spending enough money and resources in training our workforce to understand where the risk is? So those are some of the elements which make cybercrime look as if there's more in India.
It's a very good point. One thing, we were just at lunch with a bunch of our partners, and one of the things that came up was the lack of cybersecurity professionals. And then there's a statistic that there is literally over 2 million potential jobs that need to be filled with cyber subject matter experts, and there just isn't the amount of people to supply those jobs. It's really a big challenge that is a global issue. It's not an India issue, it's a global issue that we simply have to educate, train, and enable a massive amount of cyber professionals across the globe. It is a trend that you see in every country. When I sit down with executives or government leaders, the first thing that they talk about is how and where can I find more cyber expertise, and how can I develop more aggressive university programs to train more computer science majors to go into cyber. So that is definitely one of the big challenges as an industry that we need to get our head around, is finding the next generation of cyber professionals and subject matter experts.
Right, sir, right. Now, I would like to understand, as you all know, ChatGPT has taken the world by storm. Now, there are a lot of positive uses for ChatGPT, but however, there has been reports that ChatGPT can be used for a lot of negative things as well. So, what is your take on the latest LLM models that are coming in, and how worried are you on the AI front?
So first of all, I'm an optimist. So I actually view it that, AI and ChatGPT are going to actually do some pretty incredible things. However, being a cybersecurity professional, I am concerned because I feel like it could lower the bar in regard to some folks that might not be that technically savvy to be able to do certain types of ransomware attacks and certain type of, malicious behavior. So again, I think the good outweighs the bad, but you absolutely, again, going back to what I talked about, have to have full visibility into your environment and making sure that people are aware of what some of the attack vectors and what some of the approaches are that are coming in from an AI product or technology. And I'll let Karthik give some color here locally here in India.
So the next point I'd like to make is what Mark mentioned before, was prioritization. So there's a lot of people, customers and partners, and what they want us to do is, can you automate? Can you automate remediation? Can you automate actions to be taken? And AI could potentially be a vehicle to do those kind of things. The downside of it, or another view to it is, can everything do it? So the problem is you got to prioritize. Can I do this on all my critical assets? Or should I just do it on the non-critical assets? So the whole idea of prioritization comes into picture here. And while AI can help us in certain amount of automation and other things, we still need to be careful of how much of it can we use.
So I can understand digital transformation is being pushed by the government, but being a exposure management company, being in the forefront of everything, I would like to understand what would your requirements be, or what kind of help do you need from the policy side of the things?
It's very interesting. We look at many of these things as compliance and regulation. And compliance and regulations are there to help organizations become better. Now, if you look at a compliance requirement, which is a point-in-time scan, it's going to tell you what is the situation at that point in time. Tomorrow, it will change. The day after, it will change. And then you're going to do another scan maybe 3 months later. So what happens during scan 1 and scan 3 months later? Things can change. So that compliance really is giving you a state of affairs at that point in time. What we really require is cyber hygiene, which is continuous. We are continuously managing it, continuously monitoring it, continuously looking at the visibility of when a potential attack can come through. And I think that is what is really important. So while regulations are in place for compliance, if it was compliance on a continuous basis, it definitely will be more helpful for most organizations, because that's where the value is coming out.
Right, sir, right. This is my last question, and I would like to understand what is Tenable's India roadmap for 2023?
2023 for us, it's actually very, very simple in regard to what Tenable is going to be focused in on, and that is Tenable One, which we discussed, which is our platform. So everything that we're doing as a company and as an organization is explaining to our customers, our partners, and our prospects the value of having a exposure management platform. So you're able to look at and identify all of the things we hit on, the 3 biggest themes, making sure that you have full comprehensive visibility to all your assets, making sure you can fully predict and prioritize the context and how they are actually connected. And the third is being able to communicate that risk posture effectively up and down the organization, so everyone can understand in basic layman's terms how secure the organization is. And so that is where our focus is on, is innovating and building out the Tenable One platform. That is where all of our energy and time is going to be in 2023.
For India, I see a huge opportunity in terms of how the government is expanding the citizen portals, protecting these citizen portals, because they will require the multi-cloud environments. They require a lot of work. The telcos have come with 5G, so there's going to be high-speed communication, and every home will start using those services. So our relationship with providing services through our telecom operators to the end user is going to be a big opportunity. Healthcare, big opportunity. OT, if you look at it, at the speed at which India is growing, the GDP is growing in the manufacturing processes, and the ability to keep up with the infrastructure in terms of steel, cement, automobiles, especially EV automobiles, has jumped up the OT market for us. So that whole area is a big growth area for us. So I'm super excited, because 2023 could be a watershed year for us.
Great, sir. That was a great conversation, and thank you for talking to us on ChatGT.